affirmation for our message this morning is a Christmas affirmation, and it is, I commit anew this Christmas season to the teachings of Jesus the Christ. And today is Sunday, the first Sunday in Advent. So we're also celebrating the preparation of the arrival of the birth of Christ, and his faith was so strong. We read in the scriptures about his life story and how when he would go to a place where there was illness or lack or limit, he would just go and know and have absolute faith. And there was never a time, and it's certainly not recounted in the scriptures, where we would hear him that he would doubt himself and say, oh God, I hope this works. I don't want to come here and heal this guy and then have it not work out, because that'll make me look really silly. So we know that he had absolute faith. And of course, we also know from the scriptures that Christ told us that, I'm not that special in that you'll do everything that I did and more and more. And indeed, we can do that, and we need only have faith. We need to have the faith that Christ taught through the scriptures, through the Gospels, which is a wonderful, wonderful gift that we received, is that all these different disciples got together and they recorded the life of Christ and all of his wonderful teachings. And of course, sometimes we read through some of these parables and they can be a little difficult to discern and see, well, where's the good in that? And of course, we know that we have to really put our minds to some overtime use to understand some of those parables, but they all relate to life, and they continuously relate to our lives, no matter how complicated our world has become compared to back in the days when Christ walked the earth. We know certainly, in addition to all the great things, there are a lot more complex things going on, and so it definitely is a blessing. I think probably everybody here has heard this expression that has become so popular in the last few years about putting Christ back into Christmas, because there's this constant, tug of war about, can I say Merry Christmas, or do I have to say Happy Holidays? If I say Happy Holidays, well, then I'm discounting Christ, and if I don't, and I say Merry Christmas, then I'm discounting all the people who aren't Christian. And it's like this tug of war, and people get so caught up in it. And it really is all just kind of silly, because we know that indeed this is the celebration, at least Christmas is, of the birth of Christ. And so if you say Happy Holidays, that's fine. If you say Merry Christmas, that's fine too. And I hope that everybody can, when you go out and you find yourself in this circumstance or situation where this comes up, just take it with a grain of salt and move on, and know that it's really not that important, because it's just an outward thing. It's an outward statement. It's an outward appearance, but we know within ourselves the truth. So getting back to this putting, I saw a wonderful meme where somebody had noted, everybody's so worried about putting the Christ back in Christmas. I think we need to put the Christ back into Christians, first of all, because so many people who claim to be Christians in the name of Christianity are so hateful, and they can just be so, ready to persecute people because they veered from what their understanding of what Christianity should be is taking place. And we know that that's so inconsistent with the message of Christ. And especially as we enter this time, as we're going to enjoy the first Sunday of Advent, and as we go through these next weeks where we will go ideally through our city, and we'll see houses decorated, and we'll see all kinds of things and have Christmas music playing, and all that wonderful cheer that comes with Christmas. Even in Southern California, even though we don't get snow, which is kind of a blessing, because that can be kind of a nuisance. People have lived in snow. But a lot of times you'll notice people do seem to be a little nicer on the outside. Sometimes you go to the mall and they're not so nice, because everybody's... I had my lesson for... Thanksgiving, I went with somebody to the Costco, which is not my favorite place because it's so busy and crowded. And like a couple times, people jammed the back of my ankle with their shopping cart, and I thought, oh gosh, this is why I dislike this place. So we know there can be a little of those frustrations, but we also know to look beyond the appearance, because all of these people have their own agendas. They have their own things that they have to do, and in their own way, they're trying to be loving and kind. And so this, of all times of the year, is when we need to reach in and find the Christ within, because we talk about that so much, especially when we talk about being prayerful and meditative, how we connect with that divine within and that presence. So as we approach this Christmas season, we want to more than ever commit to the teachings of Christ and to be Christ-like in all of our activities, in everything we do. My favorite example, I got to come up with some new metaphors, but the lady who cuts you off in the market or the person who cuts you off on the freeway, or any number of things. All these small little human things erupt in our lives, and they can take us off balance, when indeed we know that our ideal place is to be centered and to be Christ-like every day, in every way, in all things. And of course, we do that through prayer and through meditation and through the use of affirmations. Our responsive reading, or our communion responsive reading, is a series of positive affirmations. And these are meant, of course, to align our minds with the right thinking, with Christ-like thinking, because we know that we in New Thought I consider myself a student. I'm constantly learning and growing, discovering new things, and always, even through the greatest of challenges, knowing that I am never alone, that God is always with me. And even when I think that I am just about to implode, or I'm going to somehow fall off the face of the earth, even though that isn't physically possible, that I am not, because God is with me, and I'm just going through some particular trial or tribulation. And as human beings, that's going to happen to us. And as Pastor Mike used to say, if it hasn't yet, don't worry, don't feel left out, it will happen to you. So just be prepared. But know through your experience, through your challenge, that you are never alone, that God is with you. And the best way to get through these challenges, and certainly this has taken me through, because through these different challenging experiences that I had, that I think, just like Chrissy was saying, if I hadn't become involved in and was introduced to New Thought, I don't know how I would have coped. I would, the stress would have me just all of my appendages shooting off, and I'd just be, but it is so calming and reassuring to know that indeed we are never going through this alone. And in these most challenging of circumstances, we take this time to be still and know that God is with us. And these are great times to call upon these principles. When you're in the muck and the mire of life, this is the time especially to use these affirmations and to commit to prayer and to commit to meditation, which is a wonderful thing. And I had mentioned last week the Sure Cure that Charles Fillmore had written about, sitting every night and devoting a little bit of time to just forgiving everything, thinking back to way back when you were a child and the things that you're holding on to. I was just having a conversation the other night with somebody who was pulling out all but then this happened, and I was, using this metaphor, you're dragging around this big bag of boulders, and you know what, the person that you're upset with and mad at, they don't care. It's no problem to them, because you're the one dragging the boulders around. Drop them, let go, and live your life of happiness. Because if you are not in a place of forgiveness, if you're holding on to all these old things, all these slights or things that may have been said or taken out of context, or even if somebody did something intentionally wrong to you, the best thing for you is to forgive. And so, as Charles Fillmore had suggested, we take a little time every night before you get ready for bed, or as you're preparing for bed, to, in your mind, just silently release any negativity, any ill feelings you've ever had towards anybody. And it creates such a wonderful space. And so it's a great thing to mention today when we celebrate communion, which is focusing on forgiveness, personal forgiveness, and the forgiveness of others. And it's all that sets us free, because holding on to all these things is just carrying this big sack of boulders around with us, and it's not hurting the other person at all. It's us who's, walking around with this big boulder. So just drop it, let it go, silently forgive everyone. And as we enter this Christmas season where we're celebrating the birth of Jesus the Christ, the master teacher, the way shower, this is a wonderful time to adhere to his teachings when it comes to forgiveness and how to live a life of great happiness and great health and great prosperity. And so the goal for the week, and all times, but especially this week and this holiday season, this Christmas season as we come closer, is, are you ready for Christmas and for the spirit of Christmas? The goal is to prepare yourself for Christmas, not necessarily, worry about hanging the lights or putting up the tree or buying the presents, but inside, in your spiritual life, get ready for Christmas, that coming of Christ, the master teacher, the master way shower, and align yourself with that thinking and know that everything else is just part of that human experience that we go through, because we're spiritual beings, but we are living a human existence. And as a result of that, we're going to experience human things. Sometimes the car is going to break down, or the window's going to break, or heaven knows, all of these various things that happen to us as human beings. And the reality is, as a spiritual being, all of that doesn't matter, because we know that in our mind we can see beyond appearances and know that we are the beloved children of our Creator, and we are meant to have these lives of great happiness and great health and great prosperity every day in every way. And so the good news is that the teachings of Christ are readily available to us. We can express the full and true spirit of Christmas. In addition to the giving and receiving of gifts, the decorating, the preparing of holiday meals, the joining together of family, the awareness of the great gifts from God and the arrival of Jesus, the Christ, the master way shower, and the wonderful message of love and hope he brought with him is the truest of the holiday spirit. So when you go into this month of December, as many of us do, although a lot of stores started back in November, some even before Halloween, they were selling Christmas trees. But anyways, as you prepare yourself and keeping in mind that this is the first Sunday in Advent, so this is the first Sunday when we begin to celebrate this week of preparation for the birth of Christ, our master teacher. This is the time to be more conscious and aware than ever of his teachings, and of course the wonderful thing about forgiveness and love. And so if you have an opportunity, certainly we encourage you every day to try to devote a little time to just being quiet and centering yourself in Christ. And as I mentioned, I know a lot of times I have so many things going through my mind that when I do sit down to meditate, I'll take an affirmation and just repeat it over and over so nothing else gets in there. It's actually been proven to physically be of benefit to you, reducing your blood pressure and just helping align all of your organs and your breathing and all wonderful effects. But of course, the bigger thing is what it does for your soul and what it does for you spiritually in aligning us with that divine power that we're meant to be aligned with throughout all of the days of our lives. And certainly, as we go into this season of Christmas and this celebration of the birth of Christ, we want to hold on to this and remember this. So hopefully everybody will go, and as you're preparing for Christmas, prepare your divine inner self, more so than worrying about the external things, because those will be there or they won't. I know I've had years that I just, I don't have energy to put up the lights, and so you don't. Or, some years you just don't feel like doing all that. But this is the easiest and the most beneficial thing to do, is to align yourself with that Christ spirit within, and indeed the spirit of Christmas. All right, I'd like to invite you to join me in prayer. Eternal and loving God, we thank you so much for the blessing of the gift of Jesus Christ, the master way shower, for sending him, for allowing his life story to be documented and shared with us so that we too may be these people of great divine faith and have the power and the experience and the wonderful, wonderful fulfillment of the love that you offer all of your children. We thank you in the name of faith, hope, and love. Amen.